When you're sitting down in front of your television to watch something that's being broadcast, or even if you hop onto a streaming service and get a couple minutes worth of ads before your show starts, I'm sure most people don't ever think about commercials as lost media, or that some of them could become very rare once taken out of circulation. This is probably for the fact that commercials can feel disposable, but in the lost media community, or just for people who are feeling nostalgic, they're often a source of content they want to see again, or relive again from a past memory. And in the past, we've covered quite a lot of lost commercials on the channel before, some of which have already been found. But now, there's another whole selection that fans want to unearth, and haven't been seen in decades. Today we're going to take a look at some popular commercials that are being searched for and discussed, beginning with one that has gained quite a lot of infamy online. The first topic of the video is one that people have been requesting I talk about for a long time, but just haven't been able to fit into anything until today. And actually, it's a great place to begin with, considering it will most likely come down to someone uploading it from a home recording. Maybe one of you out there has this and doesn't even know it. As a result of its mysterious disappearance over the years, it's gained quite a lot of attention online and in the Lost Media Wiki forums. And it's all about a lost McDonald's commercial. One that caused some controversy, you could say, and when you think about McDonald's commercials, you probably don't believe they could be so rare that they were wiped from existence, but indeed it seems like this one was. The story goes that back in the fall of 2004, McDonald's released a series of commercials that were part of an ad campaign called Defend Your Chicken, which promoted chicken selects becoming a permanent item on the menu. As the campaign suggests, each commercial depicts someone with this chicken and the lengths they'll go to protect it for how highly regarded the meal is supposed to be. Well, one of the commercials from this promotion was aired on TV and received quite a lot of controversy, and that's what's completely lost. Going off of claims only, the commercial supposedly depicts an African American woman boarding an airplane with the chicken selects, only to have a flight attendant try to take and discard her food. In that moment, she exclaims, "You better don't," to the attendant, echoing back to the point of the ad campaign. According to recollections online that describe this commercial, it was met with a lot of criticism and controversy for how the language in it was written to be stereotypical and offensive to African Americans. Not only that, but it was just a confusing line to begin with. As a result, the commercial was believed to have been pulled from TV less than a month after hitting the air, and cannot be seen to any extent, which is where the mystery comes in. The intrigue with this commercial does not come from the desire to unearth an offensive McDonald's ad, but rather how it could have stayed completely missing for the past 20 years, despite how well it was remembered. If you search online for mentions of the commercial, you can find all sorts of places where people remember it, from Reddit threads to forums on other websites and even Twitter. It's even pointed out in the Lost Media Wiki forums that the commercial was still being talked about online in the early 2010s, close to a decade after it was pulled from television. There was a lot of searching done through commercial compilations on NBC from around the time, with some other suggestions of looking at channels for older audiences, like Comedy Central. One of the claims from Twitter even said that it aired on BET. This has sort of led to a theory that the commercial was intentionally scrubbed from the internet, and McDonald's did everything they could to erase it from its existence. But there's really no evidence to support that, other than the fact that it's so rare. Though something to consider is another mention that claims an altered version of this commercial was aired too, where the offensive line was replaced with something more generic. But once again, there is no content from it that's resurfaced other than these claims, so the edited version, if it does exist, seems to be just as rare as the original. A more likely theory as to why the commercial hasn't resurfaced yet is simply the era it originally aired in, 2004. And how that was still early on in the time frame of archival, so fewer people would have recordings from back then. And if the ad did only air for a short period of time before being pulled, or both of them if two different ones were made, then it really wouldn't be any different than trying to find a lost SpongeBob commercial from Nickelodeon that only aired in the early 2000s. In fact, if there are two commercials with this same premise, it could also suggest that the original one had an even shorter airtime than previously believed for the fact that it was eventually replaced. The consensus from the searchers in the Lost Media Wiki forums thread is that the ad will most likely only resurface from someone that happened to record it. It'll be interesting to see if this search concludes as a result of awareness about it spreading, or if the recording is actually so rare that nobody ends up having one. While this next topic is more within the realm of bumpers compared to full-length commercials, I really wanted to talk about some Nickelodeon lost media for the fans out there, and this one in particular has gained quite a bit of traction compared to some of the other searches in the same category. If you guys remember back to the Nickelodeon Zombified bumpers, which were short, scary animations that aired in October 2011, this search is kind of a spiritual successor to that. In October 2007, years before the Zombified bumpers, Nickelodeon ran a different promotion for Halloween titled Shocktober, and featured characters dressed in spooky-themed attire as promos and bumpers that aired on the channel. From a page on the website that can be accessed on the Wayback Machine, we can get a better look at some of these characters that were featured in the promotion, and a better look at their artwork. The page was working at one point, but now for some reason I can't get it to load right. I did get some of the audio though, so you can hear the wind blowing. Though none of these links worked when clicked. The main focus with this search is to archive all of the bumpers that use the character art from when they aired on TV, with Squidward being the only character to be captured from a recording and uploaded to YouTube. In fact, one of the mysteries surrounding this search is actually figuring out how many of these characters in their attire were used on TV, in contrast to how many of them were just made for the website or other promotional material. The Lost Media Wiki forums thread on this topic does a great job at trying to document just how many different pieces of art were made, and make some interesting discoveries, like some of the Avatar ones appearing on t-shirts that were once sold at Hot Topic. Some of the memories of these bumpers also differ between the different users and websites where they're recollected, which leads into a theory about when they aired specifically. While Shocktober began as a 2007 promotion, the branding was also used in 2008, due to some remnants of branding having been found, though it's not clear if these characters ever got Halloween transformation costumes, and they may have just been used in promotions with the logo. We could be searching over a 2-year period for these promos, and it could explain why so many characters seem to exist in the first place, that reason being it just wasn't limited to 1 year. There's also a character creator game based on the promotion that uses Barnyard, but I haven't seen any Halloween-themed artwork of the Barnyard characters, though some people claim they remember a Spooky Peck, which according to this website does list him here. I don't see Aang though, so I'm not sure if this is a complete list. Which is weird that they wouldn't have chosen Otis, the main character of the show. Either that or he's just lost too. This is another search that will most likely only be found from people looking through home recordings for more clips of these, or maybe even some of them are already online in other commercial compilations that nobody has come across yet. When dealing with a promotion like this, that was so limited, and the bumpers themselves so short, it's very possible that they've been missed over the years. A little bit of looking was done in the thread, but nothing to the extent as some of the other commercials, with huge lists of what's been looked through. And to be fair, we don't even know where some of the Avatar ones were used besides these shirts, and it seems odd that Nick would have designed them specifically for merchandise, when the promotion itself was happening on TV. It's a several-layered mystery, resulting in a fun and casual search, especially with October coming up. We could see an increased interest in getting these found, or maybe even have more of them show up just in time for Halloween. Now let's talk about a little anime lost media, and one that was exclusive to Japan. There isn't a lot of information available about this commercial, so it's very rare, and it's kind of an accident that we even know about its existence in the first place. I've talked about the series Lupin III on the channel before, so when I come across more of its lost media, it's always worth mentioning, and this time, we have a topic that is shrouded in a lot of mystery. A couple years ago, 2 cells were posted to Twitter by user Krilly, showing Lupin on top of a Pepsi truck, apparently from some kind of crossover commercial from the 70s. Based on the images we have, it suggests some kind of classic Lupin-style heist as he helps himself to the beverage, but that's basically all we can gather from these cells alone. They're nearly all the content that exists from the commercial online, and were originally sourced from a Japanese blog that talks about it in a little more depth. It directly mentions the rarity of the commercial and says that nobody would know what it is if you didn't see it at the time. Additionally, that it was never rebroadcast or re-released onto home media after its original run on TV. But around the same time Krilly posted the cells on Twitter, a series of posters from this same ad campaign were documented as well, showing Lupin artwork with the Pepsi logo, but they don't describe the commercial itself at all and were just part of the promotion. In fact, if you search for Lupin III Pepsi commercial in Japanese, almost every result online is just these posters, which shows how rare the animation or even discussion about it is online. The only other mention of this commercial comes to us from the Lupin III Club forums, where user Giovanni came across a news screenshot of the commercial from a Japanese magazine. In issue 46 of Figure King, a magazine primarily focusing on merchandise, they did a whole overview of Lupin products, and for some reason included a mention of the lost Pepsi ad. As explained in the post, the screenshot from the auction was so small and kinda blurry, none of the text to its right can be read. But from the two screenshots, we can see Lupin on top of the truck like he is in the cell, and a new frame of him smiling while holding an object. It's a really small picture, but with the name and issue of the magazine, this could be obtained if another copy showed up. I would love to see what the write-up says about the commercial, since it would really be our first information describing it, besides the Japanese blog that mentioned it only aired on TV. I also wonder where exactly the Japanese blog got the images of these cells from in the first place, if they were sold at auction at some point years ago, or if they came from some other kind of Lupin archive book that nobody is aware exists. For all we know, there could even be more content from the commercial in other publications that nobody has come across before. There have been other Lupin commercials that were once lost and have since shown up, so with enough searching, it's possible this one could too, especially with something as recognizable as a Pepsi promotion. It'll be easily identifiable on a Japanese recording of TV broadcasts. This next topic is one that I've talked about before, but due to a huge influx of requests to cover it again, I decided it would be good to place in this video. And we do have some new information about it that we didn't have the last time I talked about it, so now we're even closer to getting it found. Maybe this is the final push it needs to finally be unearthed. If you've been watching my videos for the past couple years, you'll probably know about a pretty popular topic that was first brought up by Seeker of the Lost, who made a video about it back in 2021. The topic is already 3 years old, and is commonly referred to as the Oswald-Ozzy Osbourne crossover commercial, though its official name is believed to be the Oswalds. Back in 2021, evidence was found to suggest that in the early 2000s, Nickelodeon aired a commercial that took clips from their Nick Jr. show Oswald and replaced the audio with quotes from the Osbournes reality show that was airing on MTV, which created a memorable commercial that is currently not resurfaced to any extent. In fact, the original claims of its existence were sorta mixed in terms of their information. There was a lot of doubt that this was real at all, and was maybe a false memory. However, over the years, we've gotten confirmation from the creator of Oswald that he did recall the commercial existing, and there was also a post from a Google group thread in 2002 that mentioned it just aired on TV. This is where the bulk of the search comes in, because while we knew it existed and knew it was from the early 2000s, we didn't have a time frame to search in until somewhat recently. That Google Groups thread in particular dated it to early July 2002, and the hands-on effort began in attempts to find a recording of it. However, this proved to be very difficult, as recordings from July 2002 on Nickelodeon are very rare, and even if the commercial was aired earlier than that, maybe in June, that month doesn't have a lot of content online from it either. We still don't know for how long or how often the commercial aired, but June to July 2002 is our general time frame, with a confirmed sighting in early July. But we can get even more specific if we look at the latest discovery in the Lost Media Wiki forums thread, from a post by Winter Katzen. In it, they deduce through a variety of primary sources and evidence that the commercial must have been aired on July 7th between the program from 6 to 6:30 p.m. But it gets even better with the last piece of information that is mentioned. Winter Katzen also said that on July 7th, 2002, Nickelodeon aired a special music program called In Concert on Teen Nick, with Usher as the performer. This lines up perfectly with what the Oswald creator had said previously about the commercial, that it was aired during a special event on the channel, but he couldn't remember which one. Earlier on, we assumed the event he was referring to was the Kids' Choice Awards, as it seemed like the kind of commercial that would have fit right in with the wackiness of the event. But this concert fits the time frame, and what's more is that the concert itself is lost media, so there's a fairly high chance if someone can unearth a recording of the concert, the commercial will be placed within. I've been trying to ask around and see if anyone has any recordings from early July 2002, but so far, no one has come up with anything new. Some of the earlier recollections also state people remember seeing the commercial air in the afternoon or at other points in the day, so even if you don't have a copy of this concert or July 7th specifically, there's a good chance it could show up on a different day. In fact, the Google Groups thread was not even from July 7th exactly, it was from the 10th. So we know for certain it did play after the concert at least once. Though we don't know how many times, or if at all, it played before the concert premiered. Maybe it debuted with the concert and then was played for a few days after. It's hard to get a complete understanding of its air cycle without more confirmed dates. But for now, July 7th to 10th, 2002 is where we gotta look, and hopefully can end the search with one lucky copy. This last topic is one that I never thought would have existed, though honestly it's one that I'm not sure if we'll ever be able to find, but maybe someday it'll show up with the new effort and attention that's been put on archiving more content from the history of video game merchandise. While this content is centered around merchandise, the topic itself is a commercial, and stretches my imagination just thinking about all the history that could be uncovered. To give you some background information about where this all stems from, think about how much we know and have found from cartoons, movies, commercials, and the general history of the media thanks to the Lost Media Wiki. Well, the video game merchandise community has kind of existed like that as well, and dates all the way back to the mid-2000s, primarily on a website called videogamemm.com. While this website no longer exists, it was here where the internet got its first taste of the history of merchandise, mostly in the form of the old Japanese UFO catcher plushes that very few people had come across or seen at that point in time. It was like sharing a whole different side of Mario with fans outside of Japan, and it's actually where my interest in collecting came from. For a decade after the site's creation, the information and mysteries surrounding these items grew, until eventually it sort of crossed over into the lost media community in the mid-2010s. At the time, myself and other prominent YouTubers like PatMac began discussing more of this merchandise and those unsolved mysteries or anomalies with them, reaching a broader desire for people to invest their time and energy in documenting this merchandise. And now in 2024, I feel like we've reached a new era of archival for this kind of content. Just recently, Mario Plush Nation, as well as some other individuals, have been conducting hands-on searches that document product records dating all the way back to 30 years ago. In short, we've uncovered new production photos of plushes arranged in little scenes, which buyers would see when ordering them. We've gotten individual number counts on how many of each plush would ship in bulk orders, which explains why some plushes are so rare while others are more common, and even videos of people winning these plushes from their original release inside of UFO Catcher arcade machines. It's mind-blowing to see content this extensive related to the plushes, not only for the fact that it was documented and exists in print at all, but also that it was just hiding in places nobody had access to or thought to look for over 30 years. And how this relates to the commercial theme is from one of the most iconic Mario plush sets that has ever existed, the Super Mario 64 set. This one is famous for its inclusion of King Bob and Metal Mario plushes, considered holy grails of Mario plush collecting. But would you be surprised to know that besides a new set sheet having been found showing the plushes, and quantity totals that list how many of each character were shipped, there is also a commercial which advertises these plushes that was made for Japanese TV, and apparently aired according to this announcement in a magazine. To think that these plushes, which collectors have known about for decades, actually starred in their own commercial is wild to think about, and I had never even thought about the possibility until seeing this confirmed. I wonder how many people even remember watching it for themselves, or why in particular Mario 64 got a commercial, and if any other plush sets did either. This is the first time I'm ever hearing about a commercial advertising video game plushes in Japan. I actually remember the Sonic Adventure plushes did appear in a commercial advertising the game's release in Japan, but the plushes were just used to represent the characters, rather than advertising merchandise itself. And these plushes were prototypes anyway. They didn't look like the same ones that released, so you could never really get the exact same ones they used in the first place. The context for this Mario 64 one seems to be a little different, and I would love to get something like this unearthed to see it for myself. Maybe after more print material is acquired, the next step in the process will be to source TV recordings or more primary sources of the plushes in the claw machines. You know we all need to see a Mario RPG claw machine with Mallow in it. That would be like the next best thing after getting the set sheet that we finally archived. It's a very exciting step forward in the archival of this content, and it's just another branch that grew off of the lost media tree, to get more merchandise media and commercial media found. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to check out some of my other Lost Media videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Finn.